This is Making Stitches, and this time my guest is Anita Gibney, the crochet designer and newly published author who says that design inspiration can strike at any time.
I tend to visualise things in yarn, so I will see the shades of yarn that I want to use when I see something that inspires me. But it can be anything. It can be something on the TV, it can be an interesting card. When I'm out and about, things I see, it can be art, it can be pottery, it can be absolutely anything. There's just inspiration to be found in absolutely everything, and there's nothing quite like that rush of excitement when you have an idea. And I run to my yarn shelves and pull out all the balls of yarn, and sometimes just seeing the colours in front of me on my desk is enough to just bring that idea together, and then it's sketchbook out. And I have more ideas than I'll probably ever have time to make them. But that's okay. It means I can pick and choose of what I'm going to do next.
Hello and welcome to Making Stitches podcast. I'm Lindsay. I've loved crafts and making things for as long as I can remember. I also love hearing people's stories. Making Stitches allows me to speak to fabulous creative people and share their stories with you. Today I'm thrilled to be sharing a chat I had with crochet lover and yarn enthusiast Anita Gibney from Made by Anita. Anita has spent years experimenting with yarn, colour and patterns, and now she's channeled that passion into her debut book, Patchwork Granny Square Blankets, a lovely collection of quilt-inspired patterns. In our chat, we spoke about how crochet first came into Anita's life in the form of a three-legged Amigurumi pig, and how she hopes to inspire makers of all skill levels to pick up their hooks and get blanket making. Thank you so much for coming on Making Stitches today. It's been a bit of an epic to try and get to actually speak to each other, hasn't it, for the last few weeks? But finally we're here.
Yes, it has been. Thank you for having me on to chat. I'm very sorry about my croaky voice. Had germs and they just don't seem to want to go, and it's just left me with a croaky voice. So I don't normally sound like this, but we'll see if we can get through it.
Let's hope so. Well, you sound great to me, Anita. Thank you very much for finding time to have a chat to me for the podcast. I appreciate it. So first of all, let's talk about you and your backstory. Have you always been a creative person?
I have, yes. Even as a very small child, I was always happiest when I was making something. Didn't matter what it was. Cereal packets, sticking things on them, glitter, foil, anything like that. Just always happy when I was making. And it's just followed me throughout my whole life, really. I love yarn, but I like making all sorts of other things as well. I'm just a practical person, I think. Using my hands, that's what I like most.
Yeah, with you 100% on that. When did crochet and yarn really become big in your life then?
Well, I've always loved yarn. It was something that I was always sort of surrounded with as a child because my mum knitted and other members of the family, and my mum taught me to knit when I was very small, and I'm sort of talking full-on concentration with tongue sticking out and squeaky needles, the whole thing. Really good at knitting holes. I'm still good at knitting holes actually, but yeah, it just sparked a real love for yarn and colour in particular, and I loved going to the yarn shop or the fabric shop and just seeing all the lovely possibilities. My mum's a really practical person, and she's always knitted and sewed, and so I was always surrounded by all these sort of wonderful crafty things. And I carried on knitting on and off into adulthood, and I knitted all sorts of things for my children when they were babies. I've got some lovely pictures of my son when he was about 9 months old, wearing a hat and some mittens that I'd knitted him. And he looks absolutely terrified. But I was very proud. It was the first thing I'd knitted with cables. So I was very proud of them. So I have a picture of them. And I didn't really pick up a crochet hook until about 14 or 15 years ago. And that was thanks to my son again. He writes code, computer code. And he decided one day that crochet patterns were just code. And he was going to prove that by making something. So he had this pattern for an Amigurumi pig, and he went to Hobbycraft and bought a ball of yarn and a hook and came home and proceeded to make the pig. The pig only ever got 3 legs because by that point he'd proved that he could follow the pattern, and he abandoned the hook and the yarn. And I thought, look at that, I'm going to have a go at that. And I made a really wonky granny square, and that was it. I was completely hooked from that point. And I think that barely a day has gone by since then when I haven't picked up the hook. Just completely smitten with it.
Wow. Thank goodness for the Amigurumi 3-legged pig then.
I know. It's what an amazing way to start. But yeah, it was just, there were so many possibilities. And crochet was, I think, just beginning to be a big thing on the internet at the time. And it just felt like an amazing way to use colour. I think it's so easy to just pick up a hook and just experiment without the fear of... it's not like committing to cutting into fabric, or you don't have to get lots of equipment out and make lots of mess. You can literally just pick up your hook and the ball of yarn, and even if it's for 5 minutes before you do something else, it's just a really lovely way to just be creative.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And the fact that it is only ever one loop on your hook. Yes. I got really into crochet when I had 2 young children and number 3 was on the way, and I desperately needed something creative for myself. But yes, the thought of knitting and having to put something down in the middle of a row or leave it for a few weeks until I had the chance to come back to it, and the tension being all wrong. The versatility of crochet meant that you only ever had one loop on that hook, so you could put it down and it wouldn't move, it wouldn't change, and you could pick it back up again and carry on, which was wonderful.
Definitely, and I think that was a big thing for me as well. When I started crocheting, I was really busy with all sorts of other things, and I was thinking about knitting or going back to knitting because I hadn't knitted for a while at the time. But I'm not very good at getting myself out of knitting pickles. when it goes wrong, it's gone wrong. And crochet, like you say, just isn't like that. It's you're only ever one stitch at a time, and it's just so much easier, especially when you're a beginner, just to manage that. And you can't go wrong really. It's just great fun, and yeah, I can't imagine life without it now.
So what was your next step then? You did your wonky granny square, you were smitten. Where did it take you next?
So after the first wonky granny square, I wanted to perfect the granny squares. So I decided to make my daughter a blanket. She was away at uni at the time, and I wanted to make her a blanket for her room for when she came back. But not a small blanket. It was a big blanket. It was a big double bed-sized blanket. And the first view was still a bit wonky, but by the time I got to the end of the blanket, I kind of got granny squares sorted out. So I had a big old pile of granny squares, and then I started sewing them together. And I realised at that point that I did not like sewing the squares together. And from then, I never sew my squares together. So any of my patterns or my designs, they're virtually all sewing free, because I made up my mind right away that I'm not doing that. I'm not sewing.
I don't blame you.
So
That's the worst job.
So that was the first blanket. I think I actually posted a picture of it on Instagram a few weeks ago. And it was very much loved. She loved it. And yeah, from then on, blankets have really always been the thing. I've never made very many other things. In fact, the first garment I made I finished it a few weeks ago. It was a cardigan. But apart from that, it's just been blankets, 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 and I like big blankets. I like big, long projects that I can really get my teeth stuck into.
Fantastic. I can see the cardigan just over your shoulder. It's absolutely stunning. Is it like daisy hexagons?
Yes, it's actually based on one of my blanket designs, vintage hexes, and it's sort of reimagined as a cardigan. I haven't quite finished the pattern yet, but it's coming.
Lovely.
It is coming.
It's a beauty, really lovely. So at what point then, obviously you were well and truly in love with crochet, but at what point did it switch from purely being for your own entertainment, your own satisfaction, and into something more, and designing patterns and pushing those out into the world?
Before I really started designing patterns, I started selling yarn online, and I bought loads of yarn wholesale, and I started selling it in colour packs. And that wasn't really something that existed at the time. No, I mean, everybody sells yarn like that now, but at the time it wasn't really something that existed. People would go to the yarn shop and pick out colours and buy those to make things. But I started selling pre-packaged sets of yarn in different colours, and I think it just really sparked people's imagination. And I sold loads of yarn. It was really popular. Then I injured my back, and lugging big sacks of mail around wasn't really an option anymore. And the whole sort of online market for yarn was really changing, and it was impossible to compete. So I decided that I needed to focus my attention elsewhere, but obviously still with yarn, because that's what I love. I had a little break from social media for a while, and in the background I was coming up with lots of different ideas of things I wanted to make and things I wanted to do. And I released my first pattern, and that was in, I think, 2021. And it was a granny stripe blanket that had been a really popular yarn pack. And that was my first pattern on Etsy. and it really all went from there. People seem to like it. They seem to like my style and the way I did things. And I've just not really stopped since. The ideas just keep coming.
Where do you get your ideas from? Do they just kind of happen by magic, or do you see a pattern or a colour or something in nature and that sparks an idea with you?
Everywhere and anything, really. It can be all sorts of things. I do tend to see things in my head. So it could be nature, it could be a flower I see, or a picture of a flower. And I tend to visualise things in yarn. So I will see the shades of yarn that I want to use when I see something that inspires me. But it can be anything. It can be something on the TV. It can be an interesting card. When I'm out and about, things I see. It can be art. It can be pottery. It can be absolutely anything. There's just inspiration to be found in absolutely everything, and there's nothing quite like that rush of excitement when you have an idea. And I run to my yarn shelves and pull out all the balls of yarn, and sometimes just seeing the colours in front of me on my desk is enough to just bring that idea together, and then it's sketchbook out. And I have more ideas than I'll probably ever have time to make them. But that's okay. It means I can pick and choose of what I'm going to do next.
Yeah, cherry pick the best ones.
Yeah.
Now, of course, something very exciting is happening at the moment, Anita. You've got a new book out. Do you want to tell me all about it?
Yes, I can't quite believe that I have actually written a book. I'm still pinching myself, and I still keep picking it up and looking at it, and I can't quite believe that A, I actually did that, and B, I actually did that. That was me. So I'm really excited about it, and I've already started having little messages from people saying that their book's arrived and they're really enjoying it, and that is just the most wonderful feeling. The book is called Patchwork Granny Square Blankets, and it's all about quilt block design, so traditional quilting blocks made into crochet blankets. And one of the things that I wanted to do when I was working on the book was not just to create a book full of patterns that people could follow, but to try and create a resource that would allow people to design their own blankets and use all of the motifs and instructions in the book to come up with their own blankets. And I've already had a couple of messages from people saying that it is inspiring them to do that, which is so wonderful, because when I was teasing the book throughout the year, lots of people said, I would really love to recreate this blanket that my grandma made, but I can't quilt, but I can crochet. And I hope this will allow me to do that. So it was really in my mind that I would create something that would allow people to do that. And I really hope it will. I think also that having that crossover between crafts is quite inspiring as well.
Yeah, I'd agree, because so many of us don't just do one craft, do we? We have our we dip our toes into so many different ones, because if you are creative, you can't possibly help yourself quite often.
Exactly, yeah.
And also, I guess the fact that you're giving people tools to put their own creativity on something, because, you know, I own a lot of crochet books myself, and sometimes you see things in a book and you might think, well, that's lovely, but it doesn't quite work for what I need it for. But by giving people the tools to tailor make your designs to suit them is a really, really great idea.
So I've been quite careful with the patterns, and everything in the book is interchangeable. So all of the borders will work on pretty much any of the blankets. There will also all work if you change the size of the blanket. So if you make the blanket bigger or smaller, or if it's square and you want to make it a rectangle, everything will work. There's no problem with that. All of the quilt blocks in the book are completely interchangeable, so you can mix and match them however you like. If you want to make them bigger or smaller, there's instructions to add crochet equivalent of sashing. It's all in there. And then there's some downloadable, there's a QR code at the back and some downloadable templates, so you can print things out and just to have a play with fitting things together as well. And there's a nice section on colour as well. So quite often people will say, I don't know how to choose my colours, and that's the bit I find hardest. So I've tried to put a little bit of help in for that as well.
Oh, that's so useful. There's nothing worse than committing to a project and then getting part way through it and thinking these colours don't sit right next to each other, but being able to plan
when
it.
You think, oh, if I keep going, it might be right, and it's just not right.
I think we've all been there, haven't we?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's amazing. So how did the book come about?
I was approached by the publisher, which was very exciting. We had a chat about some different ideas, and the book's the result of that. It's it's quite a long process. I didn't realise quite how much was involved in it. So it's been nearly 2 years from our first conversation to this point of having the actual book out in the wild. But and it's been quite nerve-wracking at times, just wanting to get everything right and sort of finding my way in something completely new. But wonderful process, and Quarto have been absolutely brilliant, so supportive the whole way through. And they've just let me run wild with it. I think I always assumed that the publisher would be sort of more prescriptive about what they wanted, but no, they just let me go for it. And brilliant fun, really enjoyed it.
How amazing. Is it something that's suitable? Is it a book that's suitable for all abilities to have a go?
Yes, very much so. It, as with all of my patterns, I always try to consider beginners and what beginners need. I don't want anyone to feel intimidated or excluded by my patterns. So the book starts with the absolute basics. There's a section at the front to get you started with everything you need. It explains the equipment you need, the stitches. There are picture tutorials to guide you through all of the basics that you need to know. And then it moves on to putting all of that together to create the blocks, and then ultimately to create all of the blankets. So even if you've never crocheted before, you should be able to pick up this book and get all of the information you need. And obviously, if you're a more experienced crocheter, there's lots in there as well, more advanced techniques for putting everything together, but definitely something for everyone in there.
Fabulous. What's your favourite project that's in there?
Oh, do I have to choose?
Is it like trying to choose your favourite child?
Oh. I have, well, I like them all for different reasons, but I would say I have two that stand out particularly for design reasons. And one of them is the Exploration Sampler Blanket. And that one is a very traditional design because it, like the name suggests, it's a sampler blanket, so it includes all the different blocks. And if you pick up the book and want to make one of each of the blocks at the beginning, then that's your blanket because it includes all of the blocks in one blanket. And it's that traditional sampler style that you see in so many patchwork quilts. But the other reason I like that one particularly is because of the yarn it's made of. It's made in Hampshire DK yarn from the Grey Sheep Wool Company. And the wool comes from a flock of sheep in the UK. And it's hand-dyed and beautifully spun by Emma, who is an absolutely lovely lady. I actually saw her on TV one evening. She was talking to Kate Humble. And right there and then, in the middle of the TV programme, I looked her up. I found her Instagram account and I messaged her right there and then at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. And my husband said to me, you can't do that now. And I said, no, I've got to talk to this lady. And yeah, we exchanged a couple of messages, and then I basically invited myself to her farm to go and meet her because I just thought what she's doing is so amazing. And she said yes. And I went to the farm and saw where she creates her yarn, and it was just so amazing. And I thought, I've got to include this in the book because it's so special. It's a really special thing. So yeah, the Exploration Sampler Blanket because of the design and because of the yarn. And then my other favourite is probably the Modern Medallion Blanket. It's the really big one at the end of the book. And this design's been floating around in my head for years, absolute years. During lockdown, I got quite into actual patchwork. And I made a few quilts and a few samples. And I started making this one, this design that was in my head, but it was very hard to get fabric. And there were so many different colours and things involved. And to be honest, it was way above my skill set in crafting. So that one got abandoned, but the idea was sort of hanging around in my head. So I started swatching bits and bobs in crochet. And when I got the opportunity to do the book, I thought this is my chance to actually bring this blanket to life. So all my swatches and bits and bobs all came out, and I put them together to make this design. And it's in another one of my yarn favourites, and I'll tell anyone who's listening that I love this. It's Stylecraft Life DK. The colours are just fantastic, and it's got a little touch of wool in it, which just gives it a really luxurious feel. but it's a really good price point. So if you're making something as big as the modern medallion blanket, it's huge. It's a really good yarn to use for that. But I like them all, really. I like all the blankets.
I wonder what Anita, way back when that Amigurumi pig was on your horizon, would have thought about fast forward a few years and you'll be bringing out your first book.
I'd have laughed. I'd have laughed my head off and I'd have said, don't be silly. Don't be silly. But I think always, I think there's always been a little dream in the back of my head somewhere that one day I would have my name on a book. Probably never thought it would be a crochet book. But yeah, it really is a dream realised to have it. And yeah, it's quite a special thing for me. I put lots of love into it. I hope people can feel that when they read it. But yeah, really, really special. Once in a lifetime.
That's amazing. So you're ending 2025 on a real crochet high. Do you have anything exciting over the horizon into 2026?
I've actually planned the whole of next year. So I have all of next year's designs. I wouldn't say they're ready, but I know what they're going to be and I know when they're going to be. And yeah, I'm just going to have a little break over Christmas, and then I'm just going to dive straight back into it. And yeah, just keep crocheting.
That sounds like a marvellous plan. A resolution for everybody, just keep crocheting.
Yep, just keep crocheting. Just pick up the hook and keep crocheting.
Well, it's been absolutely fascinating to hear about your creative journey, Anita, and your, from patchwork quilting and being able to fulfill those dreams in crochet and starting off with your knitting and licking and sticking cardboard tubes and cereal packets as a child.
I think we've all started there.
I think so, yes. Wannabe Blue Peter presenters, I think. But it's been absolutely fascinating to hear your story, and I'm really grateful that you were able to find the time to share it with me for the podcast. Thanks ever so much, Anita.
Oh, it's been lovely. Thank you for having me.
My thanks again to Anita for speaking to me for Making Stitches and for sharing her passion for crochet with us. If you'd like to explore her work further, please check out her website. You can find a link to that in the show notes for this episode. And thank you to you too for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with anyone who you think might like it too. And please consider leaving a rating and review on your podcast app of choice. That way more people will be able to find out about Making Stitches in future. If you'd like to support my podcast making adventure further, you could buy me a virtual coffee on my Ko-fi page or visit the Making Stitches shop on Etsy. I've included links to both of these in the show notes too. Thanks again for listening. I'll be back again in 2 weeks' time with more creative chat for you. But until then, do take care of yourself and enjoy your crafting.